Hello, friends. Welcome to the third installment of Calligraphy Tips with Lindsey. A number of people had questions about inks after last week's tip, so today we're going to look at a little part of the great wide world of calligraphy writing fluids. There are 5 main factors I usually consider when choosing an ink for any given project: color, opacity, line quality, light fastness, and durability. Walnut ink is often recommended for pointed pen. You can find it in fluid form or as crystals from most art and calligraphy supply stores. If you're really into it, you can make your own. The ink has a lovely transparent brown color and a watery consistency that makes it super easy to write with. I love it, but mostly use it for practice because of the single color option. It can be re-wet, but it's highly light fast, so you definitely can use it for a finished piece if it has the right aesthetic. Sumi is also one of the most commonly used calligraphy inks, and it's what I use most often for black ink. It's important to note that there are lots of different kinds of sumi ink, and some are much better than others for pointed pen. All kinds are composed of soot, often pine, and a binder agent. I'm only going to talk about liquid sumi inks right now, and save stick ink for another day. In fluid form, your only color choices are usually black or vermilion. Most sumi inks are opaque, permanent, and light fast. However, you may get a bit of lifting if your writing gets wet. My go-to is Best Bottle Sumi. It flows easily and has a bit of a shimmery satin quality to it once dry. Moon Palace also works well. For both, I like to decant a small amount from the larger bottle and thin it with a bit of water. India ink is similar to sumi, and the differences can be a bit ambiguous when it comes to the fluid versions sold in bottles. Both are made using different kinds of soot, and almost always some kind of binder agent. India ink is intensely black, highly permanent, and comes in waterproof and non-waterproof varieties. Waterproof options usually have shellac in them and dry with a glossy finish. I am generally not a fan because they build up on nibs quickly and have yet to find an option capable of delivering nice, fine hairlines. Traditional iron gall inks are chemically based as opposed to pigment based and have been used throughout the centuries. They are often what you see in the works of late 19th to early 20th century American penmen. Like sumi ink, there are all different kinds, but all of them have one thing in common. They are corrosive, both to nibs and to paper. They can also be prone to spoilage in the jar, and it's not uncommon to find your relatively new ink slimed over or growing mold after not using it for a couple weeks. Personally, I would never use iron gall for any piece where permanence is any kind of concern. So why would anyone use them? They can be a lot of fun. The ink reacts with oxygen, so it often starts out as a pale gray, blue, or green tone, and then darkens to a transparent black tone as it dries on the page. Iron gall also can deliver finer hairlines than just about any other kind of ink, which, as a lover of incredibly fine, barely there, almost invisible hairlines, is not nothing in my book. One thing worth noting here: over the last decade or so, a number of ink manufacturers have started putting out fountain pen friendly or non-corrosive and colorful iron gall inks. I haven't been particularly impressed by any of the fountain pen ones, but Fox and Quill's makes some really lovely ones for dip pens that I like quite a lot. Fountain pen ink. There are so many different kinds, it's really impossible to make any kind of an umbrella statement other than to say that some will work amazingly well and some will probably be awful. For basic black, platinum carbon black works well on most papers. Pelikan's 4001 series is not generally prone to bleeding on paper either, and offers several colors in addition to a nice neutral black. The main thing to keep in mind about fountain pen inks is that they may not be particularly light fast or waterproof. For this reason, I generally don't use them for finished calligraphy pieces, but I do love to play with all of the different colors. This seems like a good note to end on. Next time, I'll get into gouache, watercolor, and acrylic-based inks, maybe even stick inks if I can fit them in. I hope you've enjoyed this little ink chat. What are your most loved or hated inks? Are there any specific kinds you'd like to know more about? Any general inky tips or questions you have? Leave them for me and everyone to see in the comments.